Matthew 25:37-40. Then the righteous will answer him, Lord, when was it that we saw you're hungry and gave you food, or thirsty and gave you something to drink? And when was it that we saw you a stranger and welcomed you, or naked and gave you clothing? And when was it that we saw you sick or in prison and visited you? And then the king will answer them, truly, I tell you, just as you did it to one of us, the least of these, who are members of my family, you did it to me. Today we welcome Angela Aguilar as our speaker. Many of you participated in putting together hygiene kits for delivery to City Team in San Francisco. City Team in San Francisco operates 4 programs with comprehensive services designed to help those in need. Angela is currently the executive director of City Team. She entered one of City Team's residential programs 16 years ago and has worked for City Team for 14 years in many different positions, and she's excited for her most recent role supporting City Team as its executive director. City Team's mission is based on the belief that God has entrusted the organization to reach all those facing homelessness, poverty, addiction in the area. Is dedicated to helping clients realize that they are too are God's creation and that He has plans and purposes for their lives. Angela describes City Team as being guided for over 2 decades by the words of Jesus to lift up our neighbors in need, both in crisis and in the long term to rebuild their lives. Today, Angela's message to us is, they know us by our love. Angela.
Hello, everybody. I am currently the executive director of City Team San Francisco. But more than that, I am also a graduate of one of City Team's programs. So today, I'm just going to mainly share my testimony with you guys. So my story starts with a childhood that was very turbulent. So I knew homelessness at a very young age. My parents loved me very much, but they made their own poor life choices that made it hard for us to find stability. And as a result of that, we were homeless. We moved around from place to place. And at a very young age, I chose to start making my own poor choices. And through those poor choices, it did land me on the streets in the city of San Francisco. In my teenage years, quite frequently, I traveled around, and I can remember one moment quite vividly. I was about 16 years old, and I had been in the city for days, and I was very tired, and I was very hungry, and I found myself sitting on the sidewalk there in the city with no money, and really just totally at a dead end. And I was asking people for money, and most people walked by me and didn't even look. And I began to cry, and something happened. This gentleman walked past me, and he turned around, and he handed me some money. And I don't remember how much money that was, but I do remember that it was enough to get something to eat and get on a train back out of the city. And at that point, my parents were stably housed, and I was able to get back to their home. It was about 6 years later that I actually entered one of City Team's programs. So, I was in and out of a lot of institutions. I didn't graduate high school. I never really knew a real home before I walked into City Team. And something happened when I was there. People loved me. And it was really the first time in my life that I heard people say good things about me, or heard people say that I could be more than what I was currently. And through that process, so for those of you who don't know, City Team operates in 5 different cities. Here in the Bay Area is San Jose, San Francisco, and Oakland. And we run residential programs that are a year long. We run several different residential programs now, but the one that I was in was a year long program for people who are recovering from addictions. And during that time, God began to change my heart. And began to speak to me. And I began to realize that I had value. And I also started to develop a passion for helping other people, which is something that I never thought would happen. And through that process, I chose to stay with City Team. I never imagined that I would work for City Team, or that 16 years later that I would be standing before you today in a church speaking about City Team and this new life that God has given me. And so what I did after I graduated is I worked in our residential program for women and children for about 8 years, and there I did a lot of case management and a lot of discipleship, and helped a lot of women reunify with their children and realize that they had value, just like someone had done for me. After that, I had an opportunity to begin to expand my horizons at City Team and work for our human resources department for a couple of years, and then I am also the executive director of City Team Oakland. So I've been the executive director for City Team Oakland for about 5 years. And just recently, we've added City Team San Francisco to my leadership. And the reason why City Team San Francisco is so special, because I always remember that moment, and when that gentleman handed me that money, and I think about our homeless guest on the street, and I think about my situation at that moment, and the reality of my situation being a 16-year-old female sitting on the street in the city of San Francisco, is that anything could have happened to me. Any predator could have picked me up. A dead end. I mean, so many dangers at the age of 16 that I didn't even know was there. And this guy handing me probably about $10 gave me a way out. And it's a way out that I might not have had otherwise. And when I think about the community that we serve in San Francisco, when we serve them with a meal, or we serve them with a smile or a pair of clothes, what we're really doing is we're communicating to these individuals that they do have value. And that is our mission in San Francisco, is that they will know us by our love. You know, there are other services in the city. But what I feel like City Team San Francisco offers to that city is special is we offer the light of Jesus. We offer them a smile. We offer them a conversation. And that is really our mission there, is to try to build relationship with this community. And, you know, I'm a firm believer, not only from my own testimony, but from the people that I've seen throughout the years, that people act into the way you treat them. You know, if you treat them like they have value, they will begin to act and believe like they have value. And, you know, the other thing that I firmly believe is that, you know, we are in that city to transform it, not for it to transform us. We're coming out of an even more difficult season, and we're seeing a lot more difficulty in San Francisco, because what the pandemic has done is they've isolated these people even further. And in the Tenderloin and in the Soma district, there's already so much of a lack of humanity. And what the pandemic has done is it robbed them even more of human contact and of having a lifeline to, you know, people that partner with us and people that come down and minister and speak to those people. But we at City Team have chosen to open our doors. We've chosen to let people back into our building, and a lot of people aren't doing that yet. But you know, we are so blessed at City Team to have an amazing staff that said yes. Yes, we will open our doors, and yes, we will begin to serve again. And you know, so what we do at City Team San Francisco is we open our doors at 9 o'clock in the morning, and we have what we call a cafe, and we serve them hot food, we serve them coffee and beverages, pastries, whatever we have, and we actually serve them. We take their order and we bring it to their table, which is very nice, and it gives them dignity and respect, but it's also because of safety, because we want to be the ones, you know, touching and serving the food. And then we open up in the afternoon for showers, and then we'll open up for dinner again. We have also very recently started doing what we call Hope Cafe. So what Hope Cafe is, it's a fine dining experience for the homeless. So we do that once a month for them, and we offer them choices in food, you know, a super salad, a choice of entrees, and dessert. And we allow them to sit at a table for as long as they want. And the first time we were able to do that was the Saturday before Thanksgiving, and it was an experience. It was an experience to see these people come into our building and sit at this table almost in disbelief. One man did sit there the whole 2 hours, and he ate 4 plates of food. And what an honor and a privilege to be able to provide that for him, to be able to provide that safe space for him to contemplate and to eat until he's full. And if you think about the last couple of weeks and how bad the rain has been, I'm so glad that we're there to offer these people some relief from the weather and a place to sit down and be ministered to. And so our ultimate goal is salvation, but people don't care about what we know until we show them that we care. And So we're privileged to continue to move forward, with these people. And the reason why I chose the scripture I did in Matthew 25. Jesus is talking to the people, and he is talking about the sheep and the goats. But he says to the people on his right that every time they offered anybody something to eat or a piece of clothing or went to visit someone in prison, that they did it for God himself. And for me, that's so important to remember, because I watch this homeless crisis every day, and I watch it in multiple cities. But God didn't call us to say, "Hey, come and fix this homeless crisis." Yeah, City Team does a lot of good things, and we make a pretty good dent in some of the problems. But God has actually just called us to care for the person in front of us. And he says that if we do that, that he will remember us, and that he will remember that sacrifice. Like I mentioned in the beginning, I've received a lot of what you call emergency services, food, Christmas toys, shelter that kept me alive long enough to be able to realize my calling, which is ultimately to help the homeless in the Bay Area. But not everybody's story ends like that. Only some people does. And I'm honored and privileged, and I will never fully understand why God called me. But I always remember that person on the street still could be me, if it was just another turn of circumstances. And that's why we do what we do at City Team, to fulfill the call of God and hopefully offer people meet some people's immediate needs, and until they're ready to take the lasting solution that is offered through our residential programs. So that's all I have today. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you so much for supporting City Team. We couldn't do it without supporters and partners like you.